Hello. How are you? I almost said good morning, even though it's not even close to morning. It is actually, you know, 8:50 p.m. I went live a little bit earlier than normal just because I'm tired. It's been an extremely long day, and I want to take a shower, have a drink, crochet for a little bit, and then go to bed. So, uh, eh, something was squeaking outside. Going early, like 10 minutes early, is not really that big of a deal. And when I set my streams for specific times, it's usually just kind of an estimate of what time I'm going to go live around that time. Um, just, whatever works for me, really, honestly. If you would like to watch my live shows and you want to know when I'm going live, you can always hit that notification bell and it will send you a message. Usually, YouTube's not always that reliable when it comes to notifying people when they go live, but you can always hit that notification bell, and it'll tell you when I'm live. um, yeah. So, how was your day? Did you have a good day? I had mine was fairly quiet, though it did go fairly quickly. Didn't have as many meetings, but so I agreed to do a presentation, kind of like a mini training, for our staff, uh, this month. So we break down the state into specific regions. And one of the regions that we work out of, I don't actually go to because it's quite a distance away. And our main office is in one of our regions, and then this is a separate region. So this is kind of a project that I've taken on, and I plan to address each region. But we have monthly mandatory meetings every month. Um, and to accommodate our staff, we have meetings like all throughout the month, different days, different times. So that way staff can kind of work around their schedule so that they're able to get to at least one. I suggested that I take on this project, and I was like, I will go to all of this region's monthly meetings. It was a hefty goal. I've only missed 2 meetings this month, which is pretty good out of like almost 20. But my Saturday, I have 4 of them in one day. So my Saturday is basically going to be sitting in front of my computer, giving this presentation to over several different meetings. And I got no one to blame for that but myself because I'll do it. I volunteered for this. So I've got no one to blame but myself, but it's just my Saturday is going to be in front of the computer giving a presentation to 4 different meetings. Yay! I love my job. I do love my job. I just wish I had a little bit of foresight to look at what it was going to entail when I volunteered to do this, but regardless, I'm still going to do it. But so yeah, my Saturday is going to be pretty busy, but yeah. So, I mean, other than that, work was fairly quiet today. I'm looking forward to tomorrow being Friday and hopefully it being a nice calm Friday. So I have streamed every day this week. I believe this is did I do Monday? I might have only done Tuesday. I can't remember if this was number 3 or number 4. I think it's number 4. But I really like the idea of streaming. Especially when they're like short, compact little streams like this that are only about 30 minutes we take. And I want to like kind of address one particular topic, just kind of talk about it, explore it a little bit, and then end it. Nothing too complicated. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining. I'm remembering to put up comments right away. But anyway, the reason why I'm telling you that is to preface into I signed up for X again. I know. So I had I want to say between 25 and 30K followers back on Twitter. Back in like between 2020 and 2022. And I was really like happy about that. I'd never had an account with that many followers before. I had a lot of engagement. I was really invested and I enjoyed my time. I met some nice people, things like that. But then when Elon took over, I was like, no, that's it. And I deleted my account in October of 2022 when Elon officially took over. I haven't had an X account since then. Um, Now that's not to say I haven't been on X, because I don't know if you're familiar with Twitter, X, whatever you wanna call it. I am just so used to calling it Twitter because that's what it was when I used it. Um, but you don't have to have an account to peruse through the basics of Twitter. So I've kind of, like, poked in here and there, um, checked on some tweets and things like that, but I haven't had, like, officially had an account, um, on X since 2022. And I just kinda told myself, like, as long as it's owned by Elon, I don't want to be on X. And lo and behold, here I am signing up again. The reason why I created a new account, though, is one of the features of Twitter that I really, really enjoyed was the fact that news traveled so fast. So if there was a headline that was happening, a lot of times the news about it, pictures, announcements, all that kind of stuff would go in trending. It'd be trending news. So a lot of times it would be posted on Twitter or X or whatever before it actually hit the news stations, or so it was a valuable tool to use to check out news fairly quickly, especially as it was happening. Because then you too would also get like tweets from people that were there where it may have been happening, things like that. So, oh, hello, viewers. Hello. Thank you for joining me. Um, so I really like the speed at which it could keep up with news, and I found that very, very valuable. Um, and now in doing this kind of streaming, what I want to do is kind of look at that particular day and what's trending in news and politics. And that's kind of my goal. So I figured that if I signed up for X and created an account, I'd be able to do that much easier. It's you can navigate X and Twitter without having an account, and I've been doing that for years. However, it is much easier when you have an account and you have the app to navigate through the tabs and the pages and all that stuff. Now, I'm not going to be sharing the account because I don't intend to use it or post. Oh, I thought I had something on my shirt. I'm not using it to post anything, share anything, comment on anything. I don't plan on using it for social media. I just want to be able to use it to kind of look at those trending political topics, what's trending in the news, that breaking news, that type of thing. I just want to use it as a tool for information rather than posting and interacting. That the reason for that is because the atmosphere of Twitter has changed a lot in these last 3 years since Elon has owned it. It is very heavily Republican and conservative now. Um, and I just it's just there's a lot of bots. There is, a lot of spam. Um, there's no way in hell I'm putting any of my personal information on there, you know? Um, so I just intend to use it to kinda keep up with the news. And I know that if I was tempted to start interacting with accounts, I know that I would end up with a suspended account in no time. Because I can just kinda see um, the crowd of people that regularly use it. There is a lot of hate on there now. There is a lot of attacks. You can see a lot of the animosity between Dems and conservatives. And unfortunately, because a lot of Dems and liberals have left Twitter, the atmosphere there is very heavily Republican and red. So there's a lot of hate. And I don't want to get my account banned, um, for something stupid like, hateful conduct or copyright or whatever it is. I think the one when I had my main account back years ago, I think what I got suspended for was hateful conduct. I don't 100% remember. I mean, not that it really matters, but I think that's what it was. But I was, it's whatever. So I don't plan on interacting because I don't want to fight with people. Really don't. And that's what it'll end up happening if I start posting and commenting and stuff there. So, but that is what I want to kinda use to kinda guide me through what's trending, what the trending, topic is, because there's so much happening now all the time. It's like there's breaking news every day, like 2 or 3 different things, and sometimes it can be very overwhelming and feel like there's so much going on, 3 or 4 things that are happening and coming out, and it's like, how the heck do you keep up with it? So I thought to kinda try and filter out some of that, that if I went with the trending tab and looked at the trending political topics that are being discussed, that might help, guide me on which topics to talk about when I stream. Long-winded story, but, here it is. So, tonight's topic that I wanted to talk about was, Mamdani, uh, and his run for mayor. Now, I'm gonna be honest here. I don't know much about the guy other than much of what MAGA has been crying about. I do watch Vosh. He does talk about Mamdani quite a bit. I haven't really listened to his content on Mamdani just because I'm not in New York and I'm only one person, so I don't have the opportunity or the time or the energy to keep up with every single breaking topic. That's just not possible. And this mayoral run for New York, what are you doing? Shush. There we go. It's just not something that I have been invested in any way. So I don't really know much about the guy other than that Trump thinks he's a communist. I mean, I saw something in the news about him yesterday about announcing that uh, New York is going to have a communist mayor. He's possibly going to withhold funds from New York, and that's kind of really what it is. Um, I know that the election is coming up soon. Let's take a look and see what date is it's on. When is the New York mayoral election? Scheduled for November 4th. Okay, so it's coming up like fairly soon, like a week and a half. So it has been in the news a lot between what's going on between Cuomo and him. And I know that they debated recently. I don't know if it was like yesterday or a couple of days ago. When was the mayoral debate for New York? Okay, so they did debate last night, but this was apparently a second debate. So they had previously debated before. Interesting. Okay. So that'll be have to be something that I actually look into maybe. Um, okay. So I just kind of Googled just for some like basic background information on Mamdani, just to kind of familiarize myself with what he stands for, you know, um, what he intends for policy wise, that type of thing, because there is a lot of people that are crying about he's going to bankrupt New York. Um, he's a communist, yada, yada, yada. There's been a lot of talk about him, whether he's an immigrant or not, which I don't know. Um, of course, communist and socialist get thrown around so much without people really understanding what the meanings of those words are. So I take that with a grain of salt until I can actually sit down and, read up on him, learn what he stands for and kind of make my own judgment call. So I just Googled what some of his basic policies are. Um, Basically, what his platform that he campaign, what the platform is that he's campaigning on. So let's see how bad these campaign promises that he's making. So, housing and affordability, affordable housing, triple the city's production of permanently affordable union built rent stabilized homes. Wow. Affordable homes. What a terrible thing. Rent control, freeze rents on rent stabilized units. I mean, the way rent has been going up compared to wages, that is something that would be very beneficial to people because when I first moved out on my own, my very first apartment was a two-bedroom apartment All of my utilities were included, um, and I paid $650 a month for a two-bedroom apartment, like, full apartment. You can't even get a one you can't even rent a bedroom in a shared home for that price. But when I first moved out on my own, I was 18, and they always said that you shouldn't pay more than one-third of your income, for your rent. That should be the maximum. And unfortunately, in this day and age, rent takes up, for a lot of people, almost 50% of your income, leaving you 50% for the rest of your necessities. And that gets really tough, and that's really hard for people right now because wages haven't gone up, but rent has gone through the roof, right? Um, so, I mean, rent control just kind of makes sense. City run grocery stores create a network of city owned grocery stores in low income areas to provide affordable food options. I mean, again, that doesn't sound like a bad thing to me, honestly, because when you have corporations that just keep raising and raising and raising prices without any regard for the people that shop there, especially like at Walmart, that's one of the cheapest. Walmart and Aldi is, I believe, some of the cheapest grocery stores that we have around here. And even then, like, a lot of things are getting expensive. So taking the corporation and taking the corporate greed out of food sales kind of sounds like a good thing, honestly. Um, I don't have a problem with that. I don't know why having affordable food would be a bad thing either. That kind of makes sense, honestly. Um, all right, so public transit. Free buses permanently eliminate fares on all city buses. Um, I don't know enough about civic engineering to really say whether or not that would be a good thing. If I were just to kind of make some assumptions on that, uh, I'm assuming that the money would have to come from somewhere else because buses need to be maintained, drivers need to be paid, gas, things like that. But if you make buses free, transportation's free, then that makes it easier for people to get to jobs. Because I know that I've been in situations before where I have not had transportation and I've had to turn down jobs because I can't get there. I don't have a way to get there. Um, so I mean, and that can be an obstacle for low income people because cars are expensive, insurance is expensive, gas is expensive, and if you don't have a car or your car breaks down and you suddenly can't make it to work, you know, uh, a lot of people are kind of like one paycheck away from being homeless, right? So if you're taking out the worry about transportation and being able to get to work or get to school or whatever, I mean, that sounds like a good thing. Um, I mean, I guess I would want to know more about how it would be funded, where the money would be coming from, how like I wouldn't want it to be something that was like a money pit where it would just be like throwing money away. So I'd be interested to see on how they would plan to fund it. But I mean, just off the hop, it sounds like it wouldn't be a bad idea. Um, Improved infrastructure, expand bus lanes, queue jump signals, and dedicated loading zones to make public transit faster. I mean, yeah. I mean, again, that doesn't sound like a bad thing. There's a link here. I'm going to click on it, see what it says. Uh, oh, I see what it's doing. It's just expanding that. Okay, never mind. But again, I mean, free public transit doesn't sound like a bad thing. New York is a busy, busy place. And I mean, it's not subway, it's saying free buses. So I'm assuming that the subway system would still have fares. So there'd still be money coming in for public transit. It just wouldn't be buses. So, I mean, again, that doesn't sound so bad. Taxages and wages. Taxes on the wealthy. Increase the taxes on the wealthiest 1% of New Yorkers to fund social programs. When you look at the grand scheme of things and the wealth that these people have, well, that 1% is a drop in the hat. And if we look back into the history of when taxes have been increased on the wealthiest in the country, the wealthiest people don't really see much of an impact to their financials, but that greatly benefits the communities that they're in. You know? And, like, if you're gonna live as part of a community, and I know, being Canadian, I know that there's a lot of people that in New York that are very wealthy. They're very proud to be New Yorkers. They're very proud of their city. So, why would you not wanna contribute to it more? Why would you not want to contribute to something that's gonna benefit your entire community, you know? And it's not like it's gonna be hurting you. You have more wealth, so you should be contributing more. I mean, that's just I don't know. Again, that makes sense to me. Higher minimum wage, that just makes sense. Higher minimum wage is something that's not just needed in New York, that's needed around the country, because everything is so overpriced and people are pinching pennies, and the fact that minimum wage is kinda stagnated and people can't afford to live on it, um, that should be a common sense thing, raise minimum wage. Because you think about it, if you raise the minimum wage, people have more money to invest back into the local economy. I don't I don't see a I don't see the downside to that. Do you? No. Okay, other policies. Police reform. Disband a unit that breaks up protests. Reduce police involvement in nonviolent emergencies by increasing the role of mental health workers and cut overtime pay. So, I mean, disband a unit that breaks up protests. Okay, well, that makes sense as long as they're peaceful protests, right? So, if people have the constitutional right to protest, so why would you need a unit to break up protests? Now, if a protest becomes violent and turns into a riot, that's a different story, but would require a different team. So, we can kind of cut back on protests don't need to be broken up because people are allowed to protest. But save those resources for, if it becomes violent or turns into a riot or, you know what I mean, law enforcement is needed because not every protest needs um, needs law enforcement. I've been to 2 protests this year, and the No Kings. The first No Kings that we went to, I didn't see a single police officer there until we were leaving because the when you protest, you have to have permits, and when you have permits, you have to say that your protest is gonna run from a specific time to a specific time. So when our protest was over and everybody was leaving, I saw 2 police cars going through the square, and I'm assuming that was just to make sure that everybody was peacefully leaving like they were supposed to. But that was the only police presence I saw for the entire protest because it was a peaceful protest for the most part. There was a couple of MAGA people that tried to stir up some trouble and start some fights, but that didn't last all that long. But what a surprise, MAGA trying to start a fight. Um, And then reduce police involvement in nonviolent emergencies by increasing the role of mental health workers and cut overtime pay. So this is kind of goes back to something that I talked about the other day about how we need to, if we believe that gun violence is caused by mental health, then we need to focus more on mental health solutions. So that means increasing funding for mental health programs, increasing the role of these mental health workers. Um, Make mental health help easier to access, more affordable. If you have one problem and you say, okay, well, this is what's causing this particular problem, but you don't do anything about the source of the problem, you don't address it, and you actually make it harder to fix, then your gun violence problem is not going to go away if the mental health is not being taken care of. So, I mean, the two go hand in hand. If you want to reduce violent crime, Reduce or increasing mental health help makes sense, right? Because a lot of people get to a point where they feel desperate, and when desperate people do desperate things, and a lot of times that ends up in violence, right? How do we combat that? Let's make sure that um, health care is more accessible, and that there's more people. I mean, this kind of makes sense too, because there are situations where you call the police because something's happening. You don't necessarily need a police officer to address the issue, but a mental health worker would help with the problem immensely. I mean, if it's nonviolent, what would you need a police officer for? A mental health worker could do that. So I mean, this is not taking away the resource, it's just kind of expanding it into other areas so it's not police. And you think, if you are taking police out of nonviolent emergencies, that leaves them open and available to be able to go to the violent emergencies, right? It leaves them able to, if you don't have, you know a police officer doing a wellness check, he's got more time to go and help somebody that's being held up at a gas station or something, you know what I mean? Like, they have more time to address things that are more better suited to having a police officer deal with it. So it's just kind of expanding those resources and distributing them better across the city. That makes sense. And on top of that too, that would create more jobs. People going into mental health now have more opportunities to get jobs. That sounds like a win-win. And cut overtime pay. Yeah, I mean, overtime is a weird thing, and it can be very, very expensive. I don't really know enough about that to kind of speak on it, so that's why I'm just gonna kind of keep that to myself. Maybe do some more reading on that. I lost my page. Where'd it go? So, I mean, those policies don't really sound so bad. So why do people think? I'll look at Zorhan's Mamdani's stances on key issues. No, I don't want to paywall. Gross. All right. Um, let's see. Let's learn a little bit about Zoran. He was born in October 18th, 1991 in Uganda. So he is a fellow immigrant. His father is an academic. His mother is a filmmaker. He moved from South Africa. His family lived in Cape Town when he was about 5 and then moved to the US when he's around 7. So he's been here since he was a kid. So he's acclimated to our culture here. He attended NYC public schools and graduated from Bronx High School of Science. So he's a smart cookie. Earned a BA in African Studies from Bowdoin College. Became a naturalized U.S. citizen to 2018. He holds dual citizenship with Uganda. Cool. But he is a citizen, so that's good. Before running for office, he worked as a housing counselor, helping low-income homeowners in Queens fight eviction and foreclosure. That is fantastic because we all know slumlords exist, and a lot of times, um, tenants always don't come out on top. You know, and I'm not saying that there isn't bad on both sides when it comes to landlord and tenants, but it always kind of seems that, the landlords more often come out on top, and that's probably got a lot to do with money. In November of 2020, he was elected to the New York State Assembly representing District 36. Began his term January 1st, 2021. Awesome. He identifies as a democratic socialist, as a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, and is endorsed by them. Cool. But let's look up Democratic. Oh, I can spell. Democratic Socialist. A democratic socialist believes that the economy and society should be run democratically to benefit the majority, not just a few. I mean, that makes sense to me. Society oh, wait, hang on. This means advocating for policies like universal health care, free college tuition, and a higher minimum wage. I'm all for those things. Um, Universal health care. Everybody's healthy and happy and has access to health care. Free college tuition. Everybody has access to education and knowledge. Higher minimum wage. Everybody has access to opportunity to take care of themselves and their families. All three of those things benefit society as a whole. I don't see what is wrong with that. That sounds like a good darn thing to me. Alongside government control or regulation of major industries. I mean, okay, that makes sense because we need regulation of major industries. That way, we know corporations aren't doing shady shit. Ripping people off, destroying the environment, hurting people, getting away, committing crimes. Like regulation is needed because people aren't honest in general. Democratic socialists are committed to both political democracy and social ownership or control of the means of production to reduce economic inequality and meet public needs over private profit. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't have a problem with that because if you if you look at somebody like Elon Musk, who's worth now what, $500 billion, that's more money than any one person needs in the entire world. The entire world. He could essentially pay for healthcare for everybody in the US. And people say I've had conversations with MAGA in particular about this thing about, people should be free to make their own money and be as rich as they want. Okay, because they're hardworking and they're earning it, and if they're earning it, they should have it. When you get to a point where you have such wealth as much as $500 billion, he is not doing the work to earn that money. He is earning that money by exploiting the people below him that earn the money for him, and he just basically sits back and reaps those rewards. And I'm just not on board with that kind of greed. It's unnecessary. I mean, if you taxed Elon and even took away like $1 billion, would he even feel that impact? Would there be that much of a difference between 500 billion and 499 billion? No, not really, not that he would feel, and he could probably earn that back in no time, you know? But when you have somebody that has so much wealth that could probably feed the entire world for a year on and still have plenty of money left over versus you have people that are starving in the streets and dying, and it's like there is such an inequality of wealth there that doesn't make sense to me. Why is it fair that this one person gets to sit here and exploit other people to make billions upon billions of dollars and be given so much power because he has that much money at the expense of millions and millions of people, you know? Just because why? You think he deserves it? He works hard? He's not working hard, honey. He's not. You know, he may have his hands in different pots, but he's not the one at this point making that money. Other people are making that money for him. And the reason why he's making so much money is because all of that wealth is being funneled to him rather than distributed to the people that are actually doing the work and earning that money for him. We're not saying take everything away from rich people. We just want it redistributed more fairly. And that kind of makes sense to me. So, the core tenets of a democratic socialist is democratic control. So, supporters believe that ordinary citizens should have a real voice in the decisions that affect their lives and workplaces and society should be run democratically. Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah. I want to say in what the rules I have to follow. I wanna say in what I can and can't do. Um, Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. Social ownership. While there are different views, the ideology generally advocates for social ownership of the means of production and distribution to be controlled by the community or workers rather than solely by private owners. Again, I don't see a problem with that. So, this is just basically saying when you have a company, instead of having one single person at the top who's earning all the money, that the profits that the company is bringing in is distributed evenly amongst all of the people who are actually doing the work, right? Because when you think about it, when a company is running, especially when you get to big corporations, and the higher you go up, the less work that those people actually do, right? You have the people that are down in the dirt doing the actual work, like either producing the product or providing the service or taking care of the people, you know what I mean? They earn the smallest amount. But if you were to take that workforce that makes the least amount and take that out of the equation, the whole company collapses. So if they are so important, why are we not paying them more? Why aren't they the top earners, right? Because if you take a CEO out of the equation or you take someone from upper management, they can easily be replaced without a blink of an eye and you wouldn't even know, right? But you take out those base workers who earn the least, the company crumbles because there's nobody to do the work. So, those people that are actually doing the work, bringing in the money, providing the service, whatever it is, they should be the ones making the most money. Right? Not the paper pushers. Again, that's just something that kinda makes sense to me. Economic and social equality. Democratic socialists aim to reduce economic inequality and ensure a more just society by implementing government programs that provide a strong social safety net, such as Social Security, universal healthcare, and free public tuition. Yeah, yeah, I'd totally be on board with that. Totally. Because if we're taking care of our communities do better. You know, there's less crime if people have jobs, if people have healthcare, if they have free education, you know, because then they're out there doing things that are productive rather than struggling, feeling desperate, committing crime, right? They'll be more motivated to do beneficial, more productive things when they have access to all of these benefits, right? If they're better educated, they're going to go out there and they're going to get better jobs. They're going to contribute to society. If they have social security, there's going to be less crime, right? And this is just kind of an example right now because um, SNAP benefits are going to be cut off apparently at the beginning of November. So that means there's going to be a lot of hungry people. And poking around on TikTok, there's been a lot of talk about people going in and robbing Walmart and other grocery stores and stuff like that because they're not going to have access to food. And people are afraid they're going to starve. That's a lot of violent crime that's going to take place. That's going to be a lot of arrests. That's going to be a lot of police resources. If there was a social security program in place like SNAP or something better, people wouldn't go to desperate measures because they know that, okay, something happened. I don't have food. I have something to fall back on until I get back on my feet. They still have the opportunity to have food and focus on finding a new job or changing careers or doing something else rather than desperately thinking, how am I going to eat today? How am I going to feed my kids? How am I going to keep a roof over their heads? Right? People can focus on the things that are more important than when they're not desperate for their basic necessities. Universal healthcare, kind of same thing. You're going to take better care of your health if you're able to go to a doctor more often. You're not going to be such a strain on the system if you can go to regular checkups. You can go to the dentist regularly. You can get your eyes checked. You're going to overall be healthier when you have access to healthcare and access to medications that are affordable. And who doesn't benefit from a healthier society? And the same goes for education. Who doesn't benefit from a more educated population? You know? And this is why Trump says things like, stupid people love me, or I love stupid people, because stupid people are not educated and they're easier to bamboozle with propaganda. They're less likely to use critical thinking skills or question authority. They're just going to believe blindly what they're told. Oh, now the cough's coming on because I've been talking for too long. I have lemonade tonight, by the way. I have been on such a huge lemonade kick lately. Don't know why, but it is delicious. Anyway, how long have we been on here for? Oh my goodness, we've been on here for almost 45 minutes now. So I might do a part 2 for Mamdani, seeing as we didn't really poke a whole lot into it. But I'm starting to lose my voice, so unfortunately I have to end the stream. But thank you everybody for watching. I appreciate you. And I will see you hopefully tomorrow. Make good choices.